The peaceful streets of Waukesha were transformed into a nightmare as a red SUV barreled through the crowd of the annual Christmas parade. Music and laughter were replaced by screams of terror and the sickening thud of bodies being struck. The driver, 39-year-old Darrell Brooks, was on a mission of destruction, leaving a path of devastation in his wake. He had just committed one of the most heinous acts in Wisconsin's history, mercilessly running over 50 innocent people and taking the lives of 6. Moments before the massacre, neighbors had reported a violent argument at Brooks's residence. His tumultuous relationship with his girlfriend had once again erupted into physical violence. Fueled by rage, Brooks stormed out of the house and got into his SUV. At 4:39 p.m., he reached the heart of Waukesha, where the joyful parade was underway. Without hesitation, Brooks accelerated, smashing through the barricades and plunging into the crowd at 40 miles per hour. Within the first 5 seconds, he claimed the lives of 4 members of the Dancing Grannies, a beloved performance group. As he tore through the parade route, Brooks deliberately swerved to hit as many people as possible. An 8-year-old boy was struck and killed seconds later. By the time police and bystanders realized what was happening, it was too late. Brooks had already sped off, leaving 62 injured and countless lives shattered. Brooks fled the scene, abandoning his SUV about half a mile from the parade and attempting to escape on foot. He wandered into a nearby neighborhood, where he knocked on a resident's door, claiming to be homeless and asking for an Uber. The unsuspecting resident offered him a jacket and a sandwich, unaware that the man before him was responsible for such carnage. But as Brooks noticed police closing in, he fled once again. The manhunt was intense. Police set up a perimeter around the area where his SUV was found, determined not to let him slip away. Security cameras captured Brooks trying to navigate his way out of the town, but his attempts to evade capture were futile. 6 hours later, after scouring the area, a resident spotted him hiding in the woods. The police moved in swiftly. Body cam footage from the arrest shows the tense moment when officers finally cornered Brooks. "Hands up, get on the ground," they shouted. Brooks, realizing his escape had come to an end, complied. He was handcuffed and taken into custody, where the gravity of his crimes would soon become all too clear. As the interrogation began, Brooks, unaware of the full extent of what he had done, was subjected to questioning. The detectives, knowing they had the upper hand, allowed him to talk, watching as he tried to weave a web of lies. Brooks claimed he had no idea why he was being brought in, and when asked about the pain he had feigned earlier, he casually moved his arms without issue, an inconsistency that would later be used against him in court. The detectives, well aware of the evidence against him, were not looking for a confession. They wanted to see how far Brooks would go to maintain his innocence and whether he showed any signs of remorse. They subtly pressured him, asking about his day, the car he had been driving, and the supposed Uber ride he tried to arrange. Brooks, thinking he could outsmart them, continued to lie, unaware that every word he spoke only tightened the noose around his neck. Finally, when confronted with the car key found in his pocket, a key that linked him directly to the SUV used in the massacre, Brooks's facade began to crack. He admitted to driving, but tried to shift the blame onto his girlfriend, claiming that his actions were a result of a fight and that he had been drinking. But when the detectives showed him the footage of the parade, the horror on his face was undeniable. Still, his reaction wasn't one of remorse, but of shock that he had been caught. The interrogation, lasting nearly 5 hours, was not about extracting a confession. It was about documenting Brooks' lack of remorse and his attempts to deflect blame. The detectives allowed him to lie and dig himself deeper, knowing that his words would condemn him in court. And so they did. The trial that followed became infamous, largely due to Brooks's decision to represent himself. What could have been a straightforward case turned into a chaotic spectacle, as Brooks, unfamiliar with legal proceedings, objected to nearly everything, argued with the judge, and made baseless claims. His lack of understanding of the law was on full display when he demanded to confront the state of Wisconsin itself. failing to grasp that the state is not a physical entity, but the entity prosecuting him on behalf of the people. Brooks's closing argument was a rambling 50-minute speech in which he attempted to convince the jury to nullify the laws that condemned him. He claimed that it had been a difficult year for everyone involved, trying to elicit sympathy by talking about forgiveness and healing. But his words rang hollow. He showed no genuine remorse for the lives he had destroyed. The jury saw through his act. After deliberating for less than a day, they returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all 76 counts. The judge, before sentencing Brooks, addressed him directly, making it clear that his actions had left a permanent scar on the community. This court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision, she declared, sentencing Brooks to 6 consecutive life terms, one for each person he had murdered, ensuring that he would never walk free again. Darrell Brooks, a man who had spent his life on the wrong side of the law, will now spend the rest of his days behind bars, his name forever associated with one of the most horrific acts of violence in Wisconsin's history.